Hey guys, hope everybody out there is doing well. Uh, Sir Williams back here on the channel. In this video, I don't have any real material to tell you the truth. I decided I just wanted to kind of speak what's on my mind, I guess you would say. Um, and I want to talk about what doing this channel on YouTube has taught me about people. Not just pertaining to religious matters or matters of faith, but just in general about people. It taught me a very, very important lesson. Um, I remember when I first started the channel, it was because I had this, I guess you would say, excitement. I felt, wow, how amazed are people going to see when they realize that the information we've been given is wrong and incorrect, and everybody would be just as excited about it as I would. Little did I know that's pretty much not what happened. I found out that people really don't care about facts, and the most important thing I found out is people have a bias that they either don't realize or don't care to realize that affects the way they think and affects the way they believe, not just in matters of faith, but just in life in general. And I've kind of had that pointed out to me from doing the channel, and sometimes I used to get on Facebook and discuss this matter, whether or not Jesus is God, on Facebook. And overwhelming, just time and time again, I would see that no matter how factual you are, people don't care. If that person just has chosen what they want to believe, then that's it. I remember when I first came across the idea that Jesus may not be God. I'll tell you how it happened. I was speaking with a coworker at work, and long story short, he makes a statement that Jesus is not God, and I thought, you know, are you kidding me? Like, how do you not know Jesus is God? And so I decided I was going to set out to prove to him that Jesus was God. That was my point. That is what my goal was. And I remember I would go to him with certain texts, and he would explain it how he saw it or whatever. But I was still holding on to Jesus is God. And one day, I brought to him John 1:1. And I thought this pretty much is going to seal the deal. Once I present John 1:1 along with John 1:14, it's done. It's over. Like, he'll see that, hey, there's no way around it. Jesus is God. Well, here's the thing. This particular individual was, he's Spanish. He's fluent in Spanish, but he's also fluent in English. I mean, very, very fluent in both languages. And I go to him and I said, hey, look, it says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it says that the Word became flesh. See, Jesus is God. And I'll never forget, he looked at me, he said, well, in the Spanish Bible that I read, it says in Spanish, in the beginning was the verba. And verba is to talk or speech, or to do or whatever. And I thought, how could his Spanish Bible translate it different than my English Bible? And it led me down this path where I realized that first we're at the mercy of translators. And once that started, I started looking into the Logos and the definition of it and how it was used in the Bible in the past, leading up to John 1:1. One thing leads to another, and I realized this John 1:1 verse is completely and utterly misunderstood. And it came to light because of one statement that he made. In his Spanish Bible, it says in the beginning was the verba in Spanish. And it made me realize we've just been misinformed. And so from that point, I didn't go back to him. I would look up verses that I felt proved that Jesus was God, but then I would first look up the counter arguments to them and see if there was any validity to it. And every single time, I come to find out that there's more to the story, and that it in fact doesn't prove that Jesus is God, and it proved the opposite. And after a year and a half, 2 years of studying this, I remember I had to go to him at work one day. I think we were waiting on it to stop raining because we wanted to go out to our cars after work. And I turned to him and I said, by the way, you were right. Jesus is not God. And I had to admit that to him. And I had to admit that to myself. And for me, it was inspiring, I guess you would say. For me, it was a good thing. It wasn't like, man, I lost the argument. It was, wow, like, I finally understand. It was a matter of excitement. So then I almost immediately started this YouTube channel where I wanted to assist in spreading the real truth about who Jesus is. And I remember the first video I made, and I can still remember the comment section and people just saying that I was believing in heresy and all these things. And I could not wrap my head around how people couldn't just lay the evidence out and ask them what is it saying to them once all the evidence is laid out. I mean, yeah, if you go based off what the common church tells you, then yeah, you got yourself a God that's Jesus. But once you start looking at all the evidence and weighing it out one against another, it's easy to see that that's not the case. And I've learned that people are too biased. And that's the biggest thing is that I've learned about people from doing this YouTube channel is that they're so biased. Generally, people can't see anything outside of what they're used to. People can't believe anything outside of what they're accustomed to. People will always identify with their own in certain situations. You see it all the time in life, not just in matters of faith. You look at in America right now, there's this huge uproar, Black Lives Matter movement. And it's interesting. All the black people generally think that Black Lives Matter movement is correct. And a lot of the people on the other side think they're not correct. And you got to realize there's a bias on both sides that's at play. And neither one are coming together to figure out what the real truth is. Personally, I think both sides are incorrect. But that's a whole nother thing. You look at prosecutors and defense attorneys. The prosecutor always knows they got the right person, and the defense attorney always knows that their person is innocent. There's just this built-in bias that goes on in people. My mother's Jehovah's Witness. I wasn't raised by my mom, but I do remember having a conversation with her once, and in no uncertain terms, did she tell me that she knew she was born into the correct religion or belief system. And I remember asking her, how do you know that? Have you tested it against other religions? And she basically told me that what they believe in Jehovah's Witness doctrine aligns with what she believes in or what she sees in the Bible. But to me, she's unable to see that her idea that what they teach in the Kingdom Hall lines up with what she teaches in the Bible. It's only because they're telling her how to see the text. She's not really stepping back and doing this thing for herself, and that's the biggest thing I see. And so for me, I'll be honest, lately it's become difficult for me to do videos or for me to discuss this matter with people because I've come to realize that it doesn't matter what proof or evidence I may present. That's been made true to me time and time and time again. People are going to believe what they choose to, not necessarily what is true. There's an indoctrination that goes on throughout the world and a lot of things. I'll give you another example. I recently moved up north. I was born and raised in Alabama, but now I live in a suburb of Chicago. I recently got a job here. I've been here actually last week was a year. And I remember when I got the job, I was excited because it is a job that I wanted. As far as the job is concerned, I felt it would be better for my family. But the idea of living in the North was just, I wanted no part of living in the North, being a Southern raised boy. I had always been told how the North is, how they're rude and how, it's cold and it's almost inhabitable the way it was described to me. It's city and all these different things. And so when I got the job, I was happy on the one end because I wanted the job. I'm an aircraft dispatcher. I love doing it. But on the other hand, I was like, I don't want to live in Chicago. And the first 3 months, my wife stayed down in the South, and I went up, and I was trying to get things sorted. So I was up there 3 months by myself, and I lived in pretty much just north of downtown, and I had to go downtown to work. And I remember that first 3 months, and I came in January, too. It was dead of winter. And after a few months, I was like, I actually like this. And when my wife came up, we got a place out, maybe 30 miles out, and then I take the train into work. But my point is now my wife loves it. I love it. I like it here better than I did being in the South. I like the people here. I like the culture here. They're not even half as rude as I've always been told. And I sit back and I think about it. Like, I wrote off the North. Why? Well, because people that I live with in the South always told me that that's what I should do. In so many words, I had been indoctrinated to believing the South is better than the North. Now, granted, this is a matter of opinion. I don't want to say it's not. My only point here is that you have to realize things for yourself. Some things are a matter of opinion, and you have to figure out what those opinions are for yourself. Some things are just blatant facts. So me liking it up here in the North in Chicago is an opinion-based thing. But I allowed the people of the South to warp my opinion, to tell me what I should think and feel concerning where I live. When it comes to whether or not Jesus is God, to me, this isn't a matter of opinion. It's a factual thing that can be shown that he's not. But again, the church has taught people that Jesus is God, and there's no way around it. And nobody seems to want to investigate this matter deeper. They just accept what the church teaches. There's no way the church can be wrong. And then they go with it. And if anybody says anything to them the otherwise, then they're considered a heretic, and they're trying to lead them astray. I've been called the devil. I've been called, a heathen. I've been told I'm damned to hell simply because I don't accept that Jesus is God. But I don't have a single biblical reason to. Now, if I accept the church's teachings and their interpretations of it, then yeah, like I say, but it's inconsistent. So I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but I guess, like I say, the biggest thing that this channel's taught me is people don't care about truth, and it's depressing. It's disappointing. There's a sense of disappointment that I kind of have in humanity in general. Because people don't seek enlightenment, and people don't seek what's true, regardless of whether or not it makes them comfortable. And so it makes it difficult to fight the fight, I guess you would say. It makes it difficult for me to sit around and act like what I do matters that much. I mean, my videos weren't around when I came across and when I came out and realized that Jesus wasn't God. So I have to ask myself, am I really helping by doing these videos? Now, I know it helps to encourage people that may be fighting or going through the same struggle that I am with this matter. But as far as teaching others, I'm starting to believe that it really boils down to whether or not that person desires to put aside everything they've been told in order to find out what is really accurate concerning the Bible, and more importantly, who exactly the Messiah is. And like I say, I'm of the opinion that there's a rare person, maybe 1 out of 50, I don't know, that is willing to set aside their bias in order to, search this subject out. I had a family member of mine. I don't think he would mind me talking about us, but I remember an exchange I had with him. He was from the Church of Christ, and we were back and forth. I mean, it was, punch for punch, blow for blow. Sometimes it would get intense, and I can tell you this, we never didn't get along. There was never any animosity, but we were very intense in our conversations about whether or not Jesus was God. And I remember there was this one day where he, I guess I had pushed and pushed and pushed, and he finally was like, okay, let's stop for a minute. And he asked me, he said, look, I'm going to listen to what you're saying. Really try to explain to me what you're saying. And John 1:1 was the topic, and John 1:1 always comes up. It never fails. And I explained to him what John 1:1 really could be about, or honestly what I believe it's about, and why. And I gave him all the back evidence from the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, and how that was determined prior to, and what that meant, was determined prior to when John penned it. And it was in that moment where he said, I think I might see what you're saying. One thing leads to another conversation leads to another. And now he doesn't believe Jesus is God. He knows that he's not. He knows that he's a man. And so there are those success moments where, you know, you're able to show a person that, you know, I mean, really, I guess, of no immediate fault of their own, they've been misinformed. I mean, I was misinformed. He's misinformed. There's lots of us are. I think a lot of people that I've, you know, interacted with that don't believe Jesus is God on YouTube, I'd say almost all of them started out believing that he was. I mean, we all had to come to that realization. But what's the difference between us? You know, why are we able to do it? Or, you know, as Unitarians, biblical Unitarians, why are we able to see this plain concept laid out in the Bible, and we're willing to set aside what church doctrine has said and really make logical sense of everything that's taking place and come to the conclusion that God is a Unitarian type God? And others cannot see this. Like, what is stopping them? What is the stumbling block? You know? And I don't know, but I honestly think bias, that word just keeps coming back in my head after I've had time to reflect on it. People are just biased towards their own race. People are biased towards their own religion. People are biased towards tons of things that they've just been accustomed to. And if anything comes up that contradicts that, they reject it as an automatic default setting. So that's just my rant for the video. You know, it's just me trying to tell where I am right now with, you know, matters of the Bible and trying to discuss it with people. You know, I'm not shutting down the channel or anything like that, and I do expect to continue to make videos, but I am just trying to say that I do question just how much it helps. And, you know, maybe that's bad. You know, maybe I'll admit, maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe I should continue to fight the fight, as they say, no matter what. But all the conversations I've had on YouTube and the comment sections when I go on Facebook, and the things people say, it really makes me wonder, you know, it really makes me wonder. But anyway, I'll stop the rant from now. Hopefully I will make more videos more often here soon. But like I said, it has been a struggle for me lately. I'll admit to that, to continue to do this, because I just don't know if it helps. I think that a person who wants to know will find out. And I think a person who thinks they already know or doesn't care to take it any further or question or really test what they believe won't. And I mean, that's what it seems to be to me, at least from my experiences so far. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching. You know, until next time, shalom.